to the 9/11 War Room, a weekly roundtable discussion that takes place every Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Tune in at 911warroom.com.
Welcome to the 9/11 War Room. My name is Gene.
My name is Sandra. Today's episode 213, and this is Sunday, December the 14th.
So first news item, third annual David Ray Griffin Lecture and Roundtable, a social movement at the Precipice led by Richard Ellefritz. Did a wonderful job, I thought, in my opinion. Truly honored David Ray Griffin and all of what David Ray Griffin did for the 9/11 Truth Movement. Again, I echo that he is the godfather of the 9/11 Truth Movement, in my opinion. But Rich gave a professor in sociology, did a really good synopsis of what the 9/11 Truth Movement is from that perspective, and it's so dense that I can't speak very well on it right now because I'm going to have to watch that again. It was so dense.
Yeah, a lot. That was a lot.
And it did end about 5 to 7 minutes earlier on the live stream, but we said right before we were recording here, they do have the video. It will be released in its entirety, so you only missed about 5 to 7 minutes of it. The insights from the panel guests, James Corbett, Jason Bermas, Sandra, and Madhava being basically the MC. Very insightful, good questions.
Well, I mean, Madhava is, because the questions are only as good as, the answers are only as good as the questions are. And Madhava did a great job of that. And I second what you said about Rich Ellefritz. He just delivered a ton of, his scope of knowledge in his field, and then his ability to tie it to the structures within the 9/11 Truth Movement was, you can't absorb it all in one sitting, that's for sure.
His slides were punctual. They were on target. He didn't spend a lot of time reading the slides.
He really didn't.
He just
he made it look so effortless.
And I don't know if the UK column was behind doing that or whatnot, but it was definitely a great perspective listening to the social aspect of it, social sciences aspect of it. So if you do, I highly recommend that. We'll go to Sue.
Yeah, so Richard is going to be our guest on Boston 9/11 Truth on January 8th.
Yep.
He did mention that, actually. I don't know if you caught that.
And he did give a shout out to Boston and Colorado and War Room, and hats off for that. If anybody else has any comments about the David Ray Griffin lecture, please feel free to share.
Can you hear me now?
There we go.
I thought it was tonight's call. I thought it was going to be on tonight's War Room call, so I got to go back and watch it.
Oh yeah, definitely got to watch that.
It's very worth it, Mike. You'll gain a lot of perspective over the history of the 9/11 Truth Movement and where we're going and how we can get there. Not specifically, but
right.
So I was very impressed.
He basically explained all of the. It wasn't the psychology; it was the sociology behind it. But it let you know about the power structure. Is even James Meigs saying that Tucker Carlson has gone a full-out truther. He's still playing the same games, and as Ellefritz and them pointed out, they still haven't addressed the evidence of David Ray Griffin in any of his books. They still are using the same old plays. So I think he was right in calling it out. Any other point there, John?
Yeah, that's my point. If they don't look at the evidence, why should we pay them any attention? Just if we're in a discussion with them, just say, hey, when you look at the evidence, then come back and talk to us.
Right on.
Oh, we pay them attention because their word has a lot of power and influence in their circles.
Yeah.
And we want to counter that. We don't want to spend all day and all night doing that because we've been doing nothing else and we probably wouldn't get anywhere. So we do want to take a stand. But that's why it's important. It's because these are the people that have magazines to stand behind and government agencies, and what they say matters. So
And what they say, unfortunately, influences our family and friends.
Of course. Exactly.
Let's go to Mike in Florida.
Yes, I watched the recording and I just finished it a little bit ago, and I thought the first several segments, of course, lots of great information. We've all heard it before, but it needs to continue. It needs to be heard. I agree. However, the most productive segment of the entire 2.5 hours was the last segment, where you had deliberation, you had discussion, you had debate. And James Corbett really hammered on a very important point. And that was at the 2 hour and 20 to 24 minute area time point. And he really spoke against anyone that attempted to gatekeep or restrict discussion on any topic of 9/11. And I think he's spot on. And I'm not pointing fingers at any one particular person. I think, we all know what this means. And but I want to discuss this a little bit later, not really this early into the meeting and dominate the time, but I really want to drill down on another issue about how politics and change happens. And I would like to know, in this group of 9/11 Truth, how many were involved in politics before 9/11? How many were an activist before 9/11? I would love to hear from those. I'll yield for now. Thank you.
Yeah,
I
we'll come back
was.
to that one. We'll come back to that one, but I do want to say that when James discussed that, later on, Sandra made a comment, and he came back and says, "I really want to concentrate on what you said there, Sandra, because this is the crux of my issue right now that really concerns me." And they talked about it a little bit more. So there is something there, and there's complexities and nuances there, because there are, and I don't want to be seen as a gatekeeper either, but there are the theories, and I'm not going to name any ones, that, the infiltration movement, if they were to come, and they talked about this in the seminar, that if infiltration comes in, they're going to say, this is the belief you need to believe, and if you don't believe it, and you don't talk about it, then you're the gatekeeper. And now we've gotten this sticky wicket situation that it's very difficult to get around. But we will talk about that.
Well, I definitely want to address that, Gene, but Sandra's comments were at the 2 minute and 31 second point mark, right around there. So if anyone wanted to review that, that's about where it's at. So
thank you. We've got a Jerry in Scotland.
Yeah, hello. Hopefully you hear me.
Aye.
I thought it was an absolutely brilliant lecture. The discussion afterwards was framed entirely differently, because this is the truth movement talking to itself. In comparison with the great thing about his lecture was, we need to see ourselves as others see us, as people who are new to this information, who haven't encountered it for whatever reason. They're maybe just not interested or whatever. And that, I think that's how he was informing us there, as to how do we reach out to these people? There's no point in saying, yes, CNN says this, so we'll ignore them, because then they'll keep saying it. You have to counter that narrative, and I thought it was quite an inspiring lecture. And you said, Sandra, about the emotional barrier that people have to this information. And I think, looking at his lecture, and I'm going to have to go and listen to it again, I think he's actually instructing us on how we overcome that emotional barrier. I treat people differently. If people are, right, they obviously know all of the debunking points, I'll rip them a new one. If somebody's there and they're open to the information, you treat them differently. It's horses for courses. And I thought it's one of the best 9/11 lectures that I have ever listened to. And I think David Ray Griffin would have been proud of him.
I thought the same, Jerry. Thank you.
Yeah.
Craig? Oh, you're muted, brother.
I do this every time. Can't find my cursor. Anyway, I also like Mike. I think I want to return to this later, but I do initially. It's funny that, Mike, that you zeroed in on one particular point in the whole program, and I zeroed in on the exact same point, because I share James Corbett's feeling about this, or his concern about this. I'm not, it's something that didn't really get, we didn't get into it in as much depth as I would like, but I'm very curious to know more about where he's coming from, because I think the same thing. Now, I may have different ideas about which topics are the ones that are being kept out. The Pentagon is sort of my central area of research, I guess, and I feel that particularly in some of the one of my concerns is the discussions about us putting together a document for Ron Johnson. I would like to see the Pentagon be part of that. But anyway, I did think that was a key moment in the whole thing, and I would love to have seen that dug into a little more deeply.
Carl, what do you got?
All right, let me share something positive that happened in this last week.
Okay.
I had dinner with a former Ron Paul 2008 colleague at the Republican Social Club right next to the House Office building. It's called the Capitol Hill Club. And who came in and sat down at the table next to me but Mark Meadows, former chief of staff for Trump, and Jim Jordan, the chair of the House Judiciary Committee. And as is a custom, I actually asked the waiter to invite Representative Jim Jordan to come over to our table to say hi, which he did. And I spoke with him about the dots connecting JFK, LBJ, the USS Liberty, 9/11. And he actually got, as an attorney, he got a somewhat palpably terrified frame of mind. It's as if attorneys often don't want to be on the record of having been told things they don't want to know. But this is a good thing. And I actually I gifted him the USS Liberty hat that I was wearing. I have worn since the most recent Liberty reunion. And I've asked him, and I've just messaged his office, Phil Turney, president of the Liberty Survivors Association, is flying into D.C. tomorrow, and I will be his tour guide, hopefully visiting a few different representatives. But both of us have been invited to the Heritage Foundation for an event with Ben Shapiro on the 17th. And what's interesting is Ben Shapiro has said that neither the Liberty nor Kennedy's assassination matter. They were too long ago. Wow. And of course, Phil Turney would like to correct his understanding of what happened to the Liberty. So I'm engaged in some positive things. And Gene, criticism has its merit. And what I said about the use of the word fact pattern is we should all avoid it because it's not a useful term in investigative understanding.
Heard, but I'm not going to tell anybody what they can and cannot say. Thank you, Carl. Let's get back to the news. If somebody wants to use fact pattern, if somebody wants to call Richard father of the 9/11 truth movement, go right ahead. If you want to say inside job, you don't want to say inside job. If you want to use a website that says killing 9/11, go for it. Whatever you guys feel like doing, do what's in your heart because no one's going to be able to convince you anyways.
But wait, I'm not allowed to do what's in my heart, Gene?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, and Adolf Hitler did what was in his heart.
Wait, whoa. What was that about?
I don't know where you're going with this. I'm getting back to the news, though.
Just stop fucking with me, Gene.
Really, Carl?
Yeah, really, Gene.
I'm not going to boot you. Don't swear. New York Post says FDNY unveils plans to commemorate upcoming FDNY. New York Post. FDNY unveils plans to commemorate upcoming 25th anniversary. This is poignant for us because we're trying to plan something for the 25th anniversary in New York. Raoul was a little concerned about doing a 25th anniversary in New York because the firefighters is going to be a big turnout. They're doing something big at Ferry Hawks Stadium. It says FDNY Commissioner Robert Tucker said the remembrance scheduled for September 9th, 2026 at Ferry Hawk Stadium is part of an effort by the department to make it clear that when we say things like we will never forget, we truly mean them. And I had it queued up to a segment where she explains this. All kinds of things going on that day with them, and she says it best here, so let me just play it.
Today, the department announced its plans to honor the promise to never forget while marking the 25th anniversary of the attacks. The year-long commemoration was announced at Ferry Hawk Stadium, the same place where the FDNY will honor the members of New York's bravest lost on 9/11 and the more than 400 members who've died since from 9/11 related illnesses. The FDNY will also release a 25-year health report on the impact that responding to the attacks has had on the health of members. There are also 2 media projects, including a short film on FDNY chaplain Michael Judge, who's the first identified victim of the terrorist attacks, and a podcast series hosted by Gary Sinise, where listeners will get to hear from the heroes of 9/11 in their own words. To mark the solemn occasion, the FDNY is also releasing a ceremonial patch that will be available for purchase and will benefit the nonprofit FDNY Foundation. All of it meant to honor a promise made by the city and the country.
There's that. And it says lastly here, this is a very concerning statistic at the bottom of the article. And I'll share this all in the show notes. This is very alarming. Since 2001 attacks, more than 48,000 first responders and others exposed to ground zero toxins were diagnosed with cancer, with a staggering 143% increase in diagnoses recorded over the last 5 years. That's crazy. 48,000. 343 firefighters lost their lives, but 48,000 people got cancer from that day. That's just, oh, that's so offensive. So that's why we're doing what we're doing, and we'll try to reach out.
Does that include people other than first responders, nearby residents and stuff?
Yeah, it did say and other people, and others exposed to ground zero. So yeah, it was more than just the firefighters, but
right, anybody who was there. Yeah.
Can we have a comment on that?
Sure. What you got, Barb?
Yeah, it sure sounds like they're just assuming the official story. Has anybody talked to Raul about what they plan to do about this to try to turn it around or participate?
Well, since I just found out about it, not
Yeah,
yet. I will talk
not
to
yet.
Raul about it though. Yep, I know he's working with certain firefighters. Hey, Chief Joya joined us. Right on. Good to see you, Chris. So yeah, we'll be trying to soft pedal reach out to these folks, because you try to go at them like we just heard again in the David Ray Griffin lecture. How did they see us when we go to them? And if you just start coming up to them saying 9/11 was an inside job in black clothes, it's probably not going to work so well. So we're going to try to do what we can to talk to them. Again, this news cycle, that was the only serious news I had. The rest is all kind of fluff stuff. So just take it for what it is. I don't have them in any particular order. Candace Owens made this proclamation on the 27th of November. They have been signaling that a 9/11 style attack is coming the second week of December. Save this tweet. It will age well. And there was this Brown University tragedy, the Bondi Beach shooting or whatnot, and people are already saying that's nowhere near 9/11, and I agree with that. There's a lot of talk about why so many people were there with video cameras. I haven't even got into it because I was watching the seminar, but there's some concerning things here. I just wanted to bring that up. So she's kind of right, maybe. I don't know. There's that news item. Here is a clip where Jimmy Dore, again, I appreciate all the 9/11 purists that just want to stay solid. Just let's talk about 9/11 and nothing else. But sometimes there's some bridges. Here's one where they were talking about Eric Kirk and all that, but Jimmy Dore brings it back to 9/11. So this is a clip where he does that, and he does a pretty good job at it.
Exactly. Now, we all watched for 60 years John F. Kennedy get his head blown off, and nobody ever said, how dare you? Why are you making Jackie O and his family relive this? Nobody ever said that, ever. We saw pictures, we saw video of Ronald Reagan getting shot over and over and over. Nobody ever said, why are you making it? So all of a sudden it was Seth Rich, and now it's this. When they don't want you to look into it because the establishment is in on it, they don't want you to look at it. They go, how dare you make us relive it? That is not a thing you say about a murder investigation. That's not what you say about people questioning the establishment's cover-up of a murder investigation. That's something you say if you're in on the cover-up. And she's
9/11, they did it.
9/11, same thing. You couldn't question.
How dare you ask? So I didn't know there was a third tower until 2 years ago.
Yeah, how dare you question 9/11? They did the same thing. And now we all know Building 7 was imploded. It was a lie.
It was an obvious false flag, much like Vietnam, World War II, World War I.
That's right.
Probably
Right.
the Civil War.
Right.
All of them.
Both
Is it dawning on everyone?
The Iraq War, the Libya, they're all false flags. So here we go.
All false flags. Good thing he didn't drop the F-bomb there. Interesting. Another news item. Again, this is loosely 9/11. Pete Davidson, he lost his father, a firefighter, that day. He's offering up a movie premiere tickets in his 1970 Chevrolet truck and Answer the Call 9/11 sweepstakes campaign exclusive. There's the truck he's going to be giving away. Pete's teaming up with fundraising platform Altru to launch a holiday campaign benefiting Answer the Call, the New York nonprofit that supports families of first responders killed in the line of duty. The cause is one that deeply personal for Davidson, whose father, Scott Davidson, was a New York firefighter who died responding to the World Trade Center attacks on 9/11 when Pete was 7 years old. As part of the fundraising sweepstakes, the community is offering up the 1970 Chevrolet truck, a vehicle he's joked he's parting with as he prepares for fatherhood, as the prize for the donors who participate between December 12th and December 25th. Participants will also be entered for a chance to attend the premiere of Davidson's next film and meet him in person. Donations can be made at altru.com/Pete, with winners to be announced after the campaign closes December 25th. So if you go there, you can enter in and maybe get an opportunity to talk to Pete about 9/11. I don't know. Here is what you would be supporting. Answer the Call, New York City Police and Fire Widows and Children Benefit Fund. So check that out. I'll put that link in the show notes as well. This was interesting. I kind of knew this, and I just want to rehash because of all the Charlie Kirk stuff that's going on right now. America Fest 2023, kind of knew of it. Charlie Kirk really wasn't on my radar then. I didn't really think much of him. But it was interesting that TPUSA had said Richard was to go and do a 9/11 Truth booth there. And the TPA staff, basically a lot of the people there were saying they don't want Richard there. And Charlie Kirk intervened and insisted he wanted Richard Gage there. I don't think they directly talked, but he was there. And if you want to see that, if you go to 911warroom.com/AmFest2023, it'll redirect to Richard's page where he documented all about that, all the people that they talked to. And it was a really great event for him to be at. So this to say, Charlie was coming around because there was an early post on 2025 or 2015 where Charlie said, and I don't have it queued up here. I should have. Yeah, I didn't have it. Where Charlie said, all these 9/11 Truth people get GTFO. He used the acronym, which Charlie usually doesn't swear. GTFO, my Twitter feed. Like, he was adamantly against 9/11 Truth. And now, as of 2024, he made another post where Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson were asking about Building 7, and he made that post. Like, Tucker Carlson and Joe would like to know about Building 7. So I think he was coming around, and I think he learned a lot more stuff. And I think he learned a little bit too much stuff, if you get what I mean. And he's no longer with us. So rest in peace, Charlie, there.
Can I ask a clarification question on it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I understand correctly, this America Fest, the Charlie Kirk's event 2023, it looks like. Richard's on. Did Richard attend and speak at that?
No. Let me go.
No.
If you could fill in the gaps while I get there, Richard.
Yeah. So what's the backstory on the image we just saw then?
Well, Gene's over dramatizing the issue.
He's good at that.
Yeah.
So basically he was invited to have his to be on Media Row, it was called, where he sets up his booth and hands out materials and whatnot. And while he was in the process of going through getting there, he got word, as I understand it, that the TPA staff didn't want him there. But in whatever meeting, Charlie must have spoke up and says, no, I would like Richard there. So Richard was there.
Okay, so basically a booth at the event, but not speaking.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, okay, I understand.
And Richard's doing what he does best. You hear
The truth about 9/11. Learn the truth about 9/11.
Learn about Building 7, the third tower that came down. Learn the truth about 9/11.
And he just keeps doing it and doing it and doing it. Right on, Richard. So,
That was 200 people that passed by trying to get into the thing, and I'm just sitting there right in front of my booth, handing out these brochures. It was awesome.
party like it's
Did
1776.
people take them? Were they
Oh,
open?
almost everybody took them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a great spot to be. If that's the entrance, you got a great booth there. So very good. Check it out. That's that news story. And the next one, if anybody wants to tear me down for saying this is the comment of the year, this is my opinion that this is the comment of the year. Candace Owens did a podcast and somebody wrote in the comments, they want us to believe Charlie Kirk's neck was made of steel and the Twin Towers were made of neck bones. Got it.
Is this an AI? Is this a fake AI cover, right?
No, I made that cover. That was
Oh, you
actually-
made the cover.
I made the Photoshop cover, but
Okay.
the comment is real, and that person was spot on. They got 14,000 likes for the comment. She pointed it out on our next podcast. We got this comment yesterday. She goes, "This is the comment of the day." I think this is the comment of the year because it encapsulating everything that just happened with us, with the 9/11 Truth Movement, and what happened with Charlie Kirk. That was great. It was a great comment. So. Next, again, just fluff pieces. Got two music ones. If anybody's into music, this is interesting. System of a Down. Sandra loves System of a Down. Recall Toxicity hitting #1 on 9/11. System of a Down achieved a new level of massive success in 2001 album Toxicity through its release, though its release timing was awful. The album came out on September 4th and hit #1 on September 11th. The album single Chop Suey was pulled from airplay, and the band learned of the album's success at the same time they learned about what was going on in New York. Chop Suey was released before September 11th, said Tankian. And on September 11th, when the whole planes crashing into the World Trade Center, the catastrophe happened, our album was #1, and it felt like the whole world was exploding. And they took our songs off the radio, Chop Suey, because it had the word suicide in it. Self-righteous suicide. Everyone was calling us going, "How do you guys know?" and all this stuff. And the article goes on all the turmoil of trying to continue a tour while your album hit #1. Also on that, this is wild. Nickelback. All I know is when I was a kid, you had to hate Nickelback. And I don't know why people hated Nickelback, but they hated Nickelback. And it says here, if I could find it real quick.
What's Nickelback?
That's another band. Yeah, I hear you.
Oh.
And now I lost the article. Basically, they were going on stage when 9/11 happened or that time. And what's their famous song? I lost the article.
So famous you can't remember.
I know, it's so crazy. That's why I wasn't into Nickelback. Give me a second here. I gotta find this. Forgive me. Forgive me, folks. I'm gonna make you dizzy for a second. I got to do a lot of scrolling because this was kind of good.
I actually interviewed Nickelback when I was.
Oh, it's a Canadian.
An entertainment editor.
Oh, that's cool.
20 years ago. Yeah.
I'm almost there. Holy cow, I post a lot of stuff. There it is. All right. It says, Nickelback's breakout album dropped the morning of 9/11. How You Remind Me. This is how you remember. Sorry, I won't do that to you guys.
That's the one.
Instantly became the soundtrack to the post-trauma lockdown era, forced on every radio 24/7. Then, with no scandal, the same machine that made them omnipresent turned them into the most hated band ever. And it was because that song just seemed like it fit for 9/11, and people, they got all the stardom and they got super rich, and then people resented them for that, and it became like this thing to down them. So everybody hated Nickelback, and they don't even know why they hated Nickelback. He talks about that. The lead singer, whatever his name is, if you're into music, you can follow that. What is it? Chad Kruger. All right. Next article, Boston 9/11 Truth. Mark Rossini was on Boston 9/11 Truth call. All those that made it, I very much appreciate that. Adam Fitzgerald, Nelson Martins, Sean Russell, Joshua Schoenfeld were there because those guys are the geopolitics guys, and I think Mark did a pretty good job. He laid down the rules that he didn't want to talk about demolition at all. Like he would just leave if he didn't say it overtly, but he didn't want to talk about demolition. He did talk about all of the geopolitical stuff.
Well, those guys know about geopolitics, but they also assume the official story.
Okay. My biggest gripe with Mark, because everyone kind of, and Craig did the same thing I did. Like, I respect that you don't want to talk about controlled demolition, or you don't want to talk about certain things, and you kind of frame it in a way that you still get to say it. But Mark said that, he agreed with the official story of the pancaking of the towers, because, his dad was into that, and they saw how the buildings would fall over and cause so much damage, and they were designed to pancake, which was like, the noises going off in my head, the bells and whistles. Like, first thing you go to
Crazy.
frequently asked question 28 on NIST's webpage says, we no longer support the pancake theory. So here he is, like however many years later after NIST came out saying that he still supports something so egregious. But other than that, it was a pretty good conversation. If anybody who has any comments on it, Josh or anybody.
I thought it was a good discussion with Mark Rossini. I would say one thing I wish he would have talked about was that when the cable that Doug Miller drafted was blocked, the CIA in their internal communications among themselves made it like they notified the FBI. So at that time, the CIA clearly knew it was a matter for the FBI when they pretended that it was just an accident with the failure to notify the FBI about Midar's visa.
Yep. You were great. You read all these books and you got him smiling and he goes, I just want to know why. And that was, so thank you, Josh, for being there. You asked really good questions.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
I'd like to comment.
Go ahead, Barb, and then we'll go to Brian.
Okay. I'm really glad it happened. Kudos to Sue Serpa for, and Al Magdalena for setting it up. He's pushing the story. I believe that he needs to believe it. Let's put it that way. I think part of his mind knows better or suspects better. And there were some places there where he essentially said, yeah, well, Jim was my friend, and yeah, he was on his way to see FBI Director Mueller, and yeah, maybe he told him, and Doug's cable was printed out and shown to the guy who was on his way to see Mueller. We even know the name of the guy, Maltby, another guy whose name is in my Pentagon attack papers in Jim Martz's book on 9/11. But one of the very highest ranking headquarters FBI officials denied 70 requests to get into Moussawi's computer. The FBI at the highest levels were complicit. I totally believe that Mark Rossini suspects that, but he was not. He is too emotional. You cannot fake the incredible emotion in his face when he says, oh my God, I just want to know why my cable or Doug's cable was not allowed to be forwarded. He feels somewhat responsible for what happened, and he's not.
Thanks, Barb. Brian?
Mr. Rossini is not an engineer, so it was entirely appropriate that he refused to have an opinion about stuff he knows nothing about.
Good point. Yep. Yep. Understood. But yeah, we'll just leave it at that. Thank you, Brian.
He did have an opinion, though.
Well, he could have studied it and just didn't want to say.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to be, anybody can give an opinion, but he just, whatever reason, I respect that he doesn't want to talk about it. That's fine. Sue.
Yeah, actually having him on caused me a lot of trouble.
Really? Why? What?
Well, people are coming out of the woodwork accusing me of supporting the official story by having him on, but that's with Boston 9/11 Truth, we're kind of different. We don't hold a line. We're all about free speech, and whether you agree with that or not, that's what we're about. And I have been just accused left and right of being a handler, or I don't know, controlled opposition and stuff like that. But hey, that's what I get for allowing free speech. But I think he is definitely supporting the official story. But even so, I think his information about the cover-up of what they knew was valuable and very valuable. But when addressed, why did they cover this up? He got a little flustered.
Yeah.
So if he spends a little time thinking about that, he's going to realize they covered it up because they wanted it to happen.
Exactly.
Yep.
I think it was really positive, Sue. I mean, I think just anytime you hear from somebody where they're coming from, whether you like what they're saying or not, to me, it's a positive. I mean, people, got to ask their questions, and I think it was very good that you had them on.
And I want to applaud all the participants. I really was very relieved that there was no direct slamming of each other, which I was worried about.
That's a different story that Mark Rossini picked up. He's like, "What's going on over here?" And he's reading this stuff like, "Oh my god!"
Yeah, he was reading the chat, which there were some pretty nasty chats, though.
Yeah,
and at the end,
he took it well.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
But he also asked for a copy of the whole chat at the end too.
So he's gonna read all that. So keep that in mind, because Sue, you bring up a good point too, and talking about free speech and allowing everyone, and we hearing that from Mike and Craig, and I agree. There's some complexities in that we all know about too, and we definitely need to talk about this more. So we will come back to that, because that seems to be the hot issue. Thanks, Sue.
All righty.
Ross. There, but we don't hear you. You're not muted. I'll come back to you, Ross. Let's go to Professor Ellefritz. Good job. That was a great, there's a lot of stuff unpacking I got to do on that one. But thank you for doing that, sir.
No, I'm glad to hear you say that. I had intended it for it to be a second viewing opportunity for people to go back through. I provided all the resources and everything like that, but like I tried to fit so much in there that at the end, what I had put in terms of your comment, Gene, to popular mechanics, and then segueing into your and Sandra's being administrators in the 9/11 Truth Facebook group, all of this hard work and dedication that goes on, relatively speaking, behind the scenes from what the public sees. And I showed the Boston 9/11 Truth's webpage, and also an internal email that I got permission to show, that shows that there's a lot of organization and effort that goes into continuing to debate and discuss all of these various issues that for the general public seem like intricate minutia and details that are significant if you have a wealth of knowledge behind these things. So I really didn't get to that. I wanted to emphasize those points at the end, because I actually really have a lot of respect for what a lot of the movement organizers do, such as yourselves. And I tried to put so much in there that I didn't get to as much detail on those ending points, and I kind of knew that ahead of time. But I just wanted to jump on here real quick and thank Sandra personally for the contributions that she made to the discussion there at the end. That was invaluable. And I got to drop off because I'm at an office party with my girlfriend. So I just wanted to jump on here real quick and share those kind of quick thoughts.
No, just quick yes or no. Were you happy with how it went overall?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm so highly self-critical that I'm like, I should have practiced it 2 or 3 more times.
My God, it flew effortlessly. I mean, if everyone could speak like you, there's a lot of talks that would be more interesting. But
I truly think it was an honor for David Ray Griffin for you to be there for that. That was fantastic. So
yeah, the whole thing was incredible, Richard. Way to go. I mean, it was awesome.
Mm-hmm. And
thank you. That means so much to me.
I would like to hear about the one hot button issue that seemed to revolve there, and it's now being talked about here, is this issue where we want to be all encompassing. We don't want to be gatekeepers, but then you have a government agency that wants to foil what you're doing, and there's going to be avenues in that. So now, how do you protect from? And I'll pick one. We'll go CGI. People that are pushing CGI that you might think that's disinformation, but you also don't want to be a gatekeeper and seem like you're that type of person. So now we're in this very sticky situation that's very difficult to deal with.
In my opinion, Jonathan Cole did a really good job at the Turning the Tide event with doing a systematic analysis of Judy Wood's Where Did the Towers Go? And he just kind of consistently and systematically went through her arguments. I think he steel-manned them. He kind of presented them as they are, and then showed the countervailing evidence. I think for me, that's a model of the way it should be done. Being a trained scientist, you directly interrogate the empirically verifiable statements as they are. You show your best evidence, why you think they're wrong, and hold public debates and discussions. It doesn't always have to be an immediate back and forth debate, because these things take time and they should take place in the public. So when people present, and Sandra brought this up, and it was a great point, that there's a lot of competing theories that anybody new to 9/11 truth would be exposed to directed energy weapons or CGI or various things like that. And one thing that I know is that the 9/11 consensus panel, I think, tried their best to present what they think is the sort of like incontrovertible evidence. But even then, I know that I've talked to people who said that whole process was a sham, and that that was gatekeeping in and of itself. And like with any other transformative social movement, you're going to have a lot of internal disagreement, to say the least. And so it's just not something that you're going to get around. And there's no like Band-Aid that you're going to put over it, because people are going to have their egos hurt. And like you said, there probably are very, let's say, insincere people whose efforts ultimately undermine the movement toward official investigation grand jury with subpoena power to indict criminals. So there's my thoughts in a nutshell.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I want to respect, I know people probably really want to talk to you. I want to be respectful. You got an office party with a girlfriend to get to. So.
Well, I don't want to jump in on your time here, because I just wanted to chime in, because I did include Boston 9/11 Truth. That's what you're talking about. And so I thought, I would just say that I think you're all doing great work, and I meant to spend a little bit more time on that. I was just running out of time by that, point in the presentation.
Well, thank you for doing that. And again, when are you on Boston Call? For anybody that wants to directly ask you questions, that's December 8th, I think, or January 8th. What
January
8th. January 8th. All right.
January 8th.
If anybody wants to talk about the conference or ask Professor Ellefritz any questions, please be there for that. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you. Thanks again, Sandra.
Thank you.
Was Judy invited to Turning the Tide?
No.
No, I don't think so.
Helpful.
Let's go to Ross. Go ahead, Ross.
I was next.
Not in this hand stack order. Unless Ross has his hand up from before. Or he never came back from audio. Did you ever figure out your audio there? I guess not. We'll go to Carl then. Go ahead, Carl.
Thank you. First, on a positive note, I'd like to ask a favor of Richard. I've written on behalf of Phil Turney to several senators and representatives. Among those, of course, Senator Ron Johnson, asking him to please meet privately with Phil Turney. I don't even have to be in the room. And yeah, but Phil Turney has inside information about a real false flag event involving 2 different countries. And I haven't heard back from him yet. So, Richard, I know you have his cell number, which I don't have. If you can draw his attention to that invitation or request for a meeting, I think he would benefit from meeting with Phil Turney. But secondly, I must actually sadly return to defending my integrity again here. I don't use Facebook very much, but I stumbled across a thread that was started by, hello?
You close at 3.
Sorry, I muted it.
Somebody's microphone is on. Yes, Sue Serpa started a thread, and she had invited me to, apply to speak to a Boston 9/11 Truth gathering. And so we exchanged some emails, and almost as a joke, I asked her, because everyone in this group knows, Gene, you've said there's a guy you've kicked off because he accused Sue of being a controlled opposition. So I jokingly said, Sue, so hey, should I think that's true or not? And she entered into somewhat of a lengthy defense, which I didn't think was really necessary. But then she decided to post into Facebook that I was accusing her of being controlled opposition, which I did hypothetically say if she, well, if the members of Boston 9/11 Truth don't actually know who the small group is that decides who gets to be speakers are, well, that would seem like a controlled opposition situation. Anyway, I've never heard back, but please do post. There's a screenshot of a conversation in which Sandra engaged with Sue, and it seems like, well, Sue called me a 9/11 revisionist. Don't interrupt. That's what it says. Please display the screenshot. And Sandra, please explain what your reply meant. You seem to want to define a new kind of ad hominem attack, which that isn't what I was doing to anybody. So please explain what you were saying about me, because it looked like you were attacking me. And just to defend my integrity.
Me. You attacked me.
Who attacked who?
You attacked me.
No, I didn't. What did I say?
You called me controlled opposition because I wasn't going to tell you who was on our voting committee without asking if that's okay first. Wait
a minute, Sue, we were having
it was your email to me did not come through as joking.
Well, that's what
as accusatory.
Sue, I was still talking. Sue,
I did not call you. I did not call you. Let me answer you.
Go ahead.
I did not call you 9/11 revisionist. Ray asked who accused me, and I answered him, you and 9/11 revisionist. That doesn't mean I'm calling you 9/11 revisionist.
Okay, now let me respond.
9/11 revisionist is Norman, and he's also accused me of being controlled opposition.
All right, now let me finish this. Sue, mute Sue for a moment so I can respond.
She won't.
Because we were engaged in a private email conversation, and you asked me if you could post our thread, somewhere publish it. You said, and I said sure, as long as you post the whole thread, which you didn't. You posted part of it in Facebook, and And if you look, when I made the joking comments about controlled opposition, you'll see, the old-fashioned way of a smiley face. I have a colon with a colon with then a closed parentheses at the end of the sentence. And in no sense, this was a private email conversation we were having. What caused you to think you needed to put that out into Facebook, accusing me of accusing you of being controlled opposition?
I asked you, and you gave me permission, so I did.
But you chose to.
Can we move on?
We were just having a private conversation.
The rest of the room doesn't care about this, and this isn't benefiting them.
That's true.
Well, Sue should not accuse people of nonsense on Facebook.
Shouldn't make coarse jesting. All right, Mike, what do you got?
No, Gene. Hey, but Sandra hasn't explained, because Sandra seemed to chime in, and Sandra, you alluded to someone not having any credibility. Now,
that's you, asshole.
Right. Yeah, the wheels are coming off. You see where this goes when toxicity starts to happen?
And who started the toxicity?
You did.
No, I don't think so. Brian, good. Yeah, you were one of the ones chiming into that conversation.
Let's not call each other controlled opposition. All right. Mike, what do you got?
Well, I think what is happening right now is very indicative of what really needs to happen. And we need to have an assembly, a deliberative dialogue, debate, good old-fashioned assembly where everyone comes together and you present your ideas of why it shouldn't be your way or this way or that way. We have a real problem in this movement with strategy. Both sides are making some excellent points today. And at the very end of the meeting today, the David Ray Griffin meeting, that was the most productive part of the whole meeting. And I feel that Sandra and Corbett made some really interesting comments, and I wanted to kind of shift gears away from the hard fighting and debating and right now, and let's focus on solution-oriented strategy. And we've got confusing methods here. You've got two environments where you present two kinds of evidence. You've got a public environment, like what took place in Washington at the Turning the Tide, and then you have a private environment, like what's happening here right now. But at the public environment, this is where we must present our most powerful evidence. Evidence is like a bomb. Some bombs just make a lot of noise and they don't really penetrate, but other bombs explode and penetrate. We need to put the penetrating type bombs in the public arena. The type of bombs that just make noise, they have evidence, they have explosive power, but it needs to remain in the private environment where we can put them on the threshing floor and deliberate and debate. CGI and DEW weapons are part of the noisy bombs. They make a lot of noise, but right now at this crucial point where we're at, we need penetrable bombs that penetrate the barriers. Mm-hmm. And we really need to sit down and have a discussion about strategy. And Corbett and Sandra both dovetailed kind of off each other. Sandra talked about how everybody has their view or their method, and they think their idea is the best, and that's normal. Everybody, wants to push their idea until it gets proven wrong. Well, if there's never an assembly or an organized debate, their idea will never gain or decrease in merit. It'll just continue being noise. We need to separate the noise from the signal. We got a lot of signal, but there's also a lot of noise. But some of that noise can become adjudicated once a court of law occurs, once a grand jury occurs. And right now, we are presenting evidence in front of county commissioners and city halls and school boards, because there are 15 states right now that are forcing 9/11 lies upon children for the future to be secure for these criminals. that perpetrated this crime. So I would like to ask, does anybody have an affidavit about 9/11 crime that we could use? Dan Hanley is providing multiple legal affidavits for us to use to present to school boards, city halls, and county commissioners. Does anyone have an affidavit they'd be willing to present?
Well,
The Lawyers Committee has many affidavits.
hang on.
Awesome.
With the news. Did anybody hear me? Am I dead? I'm blind. I don't know. Anyways, we'll get to that, Mike. Again, like I promised, that we'll get back to that, but we're still not.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm just priming the pump.
Yeah. And I'll still get to the hands. Let me just get through these last two news items because I don't know. This roundtable is crazy today.
I thought you were done with the news items. Sorry.
Yeah, no. Two other things.
Yeah, I did too. I'm sorry. I thought you were done too, Gene. I apologize.
Oh, good. Richard is working on episode 5 of Crime Scene to Courtroom. So be looking forward to that coming out soon. Richard, I don't know if you can give any update on the timeline there.
I think we're looking at December 21 for the release of the live broadcast of episode 5 of 9/11 Crime Scene to Courtroom.
Excellent. Thank you. And I think this is very valuable. Again, for those that don't know, we had the 60 exhibits for the controlled demolition of 1, 2, and 7. They went the whole way up to the Supreme Court for the Supreme Court to say you guys don't have standing, even though family members were part of the lawsuit. But what they've done now is thought, let's put this in a doc series where we can present the evidence to a jury so that the viewer feels like a jury member. And we're up to episode 5, and it'll be very good to check out when it gets officially released. So,
Can I comment on that as the board chair of the Lawyers Committee?
sure.
Yeah. Okay. So it's really important for people to understand that we're on episode 5. It's about to come out, hopefully the 21st. And by the way, if it is the 21st, it will be on StreamYard, I'm pretty sure. And it will almost certainly be from 5 to 7 Pacific. So that would be what, 8 to 10, right? Eastern on a week from today on Sunday. But the important thing for people to understand is that for World Trade Center 7 so far, the first episodes are on World Trade Center 7, but after that they will be on the Twin Towers. And when we're done with all approximate 12 episodes, World Trade Center 1, 2, and 7, then the whole thing will be reformatted, like removing the background music and that kind of thing, and packaged for an actual grand jury up in federal grand jury up in Manhattan. And even though we've gone to the Supreme Court, they didn't take the case. They bumped it back to the appeals court in that district, federal district, which is where it stands, saying that we don't have standing. But that's not the end of the story. And the reason it's not the end of the story is that federal law gives a plan B, gives an alternative way to get the evidence of crimes, federal crimes, into a sitting criminal grand jury, or if there isn't a sitting one, into a specially impaneled special criminal grand jury in that federal district, and that is you can go straight to a judge. So that is probably what the Lawyers Committee will be doing once we have all 12 episodes. It will be packaged literally as the supplement, another supplement. There already been some supplements. They're basically, that's a legal term for an appendix, basically, to the original grand jury 1, 2, and 7 petition that was filed back on April 8th of 2018. And so it's still sitting there. And once we have the video evidence, that actual video with all 12 parts reformatted for an actual grand jury will be submitted as a formal submission to the original grand jury petition for 1, 2, and 7. And we will almost certainly go to Plan B, which the federal law allows us to do, and go straight to a judge and ask the judge to give it to a grand jury. So I just want people to know that, the Supreme Court's not the end of the story.
Excellent. Thank you, Barb. And what I have on the screen, there is still yet another avenue on top of that. that Kurt, I've mentioned a bunch of times, so forgive me if you've heard this a million times, but Kurt Weldon had Jay Clayton as a, what are they called when you come work for somebody, but you're not on the official payroll?
One of his interns, I believe.
There we go. Yes.
Consultant or advisor or
an
I
intern.
think it was an intern. I
He
think
was an intern for Kurt Weldon way back, and Kurt's friends with family. So yeah, hopefully Jay Clayton might look at it, because like Barb said, you don't have to refile it; it's still sitting there on the shelf. So we'll see. Thank you, Barb, and thank you, Richard. Looking forward to that episode 5. All right, and oh wait, one last news story. I had mentioned this a couple times. I finally put out a video, like the first time I've ever put out a personalized video. This is the Baikovsky video, famous video we see to Building 7 from the north side. This first spike you see right here, you don't hear it until you have put your earbuds in, but right about 2 seconds before that east penthouse falls, there's a boom. It's a rumble. You have to have your earbuds in to hear it, but NIST says there's no audio of an explosion at Building 7 on 9/11.
Yeah, that's really
This
important.
iconic video from Stephen Baikovsky, a CBS cameraman that was recording that day. It tells a different story. We've all seen this video, but have you listened to this video? Right where this spike happens, I put in a boom graphic. I'm going to play it through a couple times so you can hear it for yourself. Hopefully you guys can. So I'll put that link in the show notes if you want to check it out. I think there is actually other booms, and then I overlaid it with what David Chandler did on the Ashley Banfield video, and there's some ties between them, the booms going off. So interesting. Something to check out. So that's all I have for news. I realize the big topic everybody wants to talk about is gatekeeping, but let's get to the hands. So let's go to Mike, and then Ross, and Mike, and John, and Sue. Ooh. Good Zarzano. Oh, I guess that was a hand from before. Might have been Ross. You still have your hand up. You're muted this time. There you go.
Okay. How am I sounding okay?
Yeah.
Oh, good. All right. I re-logged in. So yeah, in terms of, I'm sorry I missed both of the important conferences of this week. I plan to attend them both, but I've had a pretty crazy week. And so I would say in terms of the people that were there, the supposed geopolitical experts, I think it's all, you have to realize it's controlled, it's payrolled opposition geopolitics. In other words, it's kind of fake geopolitics that they tend to know. And Barbara, I have to comment, I think you're probably part of that because you've been so involved in the government. I'll just make that comment. I won't make it as a big criticism, but
well, I'm absolutely
anyway,
not. And I take offense at that, and it's not true.
Okay, well, good. Anyway, fine, maybe I'm wrong. And
you are wrong.
But okay. So the next thing, since we're done with the news, I guess I'll just go on and finish. I want to talk about the Richard Gage's, I would call it, I guess, a prospectus on trying to recuperate the AE 9/11, which I think we know is now over officially, I would say. I thought it was officially over earlier, but anyway, it's, I think, now over. And his prospectus was good. It was interesting in the sense that it's still kind of his perspectives from before, I think. And I think we should modify it a bit. He talked, the first point in his email was that we should have, this focus on justice. And I'm, with what Barbara was talking about earlier and with what Richard talks about and what we talked about, is that, we got a judge that's going to put down a gavel and give us justice. So I think we're past that. I think what we need now is for us to assume the role of saying what justice is going to be. So when Ron Johnson wants to know, well, what are we going to do? We're going to say, well, we're not going to the courts. Justice is of the people. And so we're going to have this grand jury that's not part of the court system. It's part of our system. And so we got to say what justice is. And I think Matt Campbell is the person to really kind of give us a forward thinking on that, as well as the firefighters, all the victims, and us here in this room. What does justice look like? Not what a judge is going to put down a gavel and say, oh, you got to pay hundreds of millions of dollars, you know. So I think justice needs to be defined as not going through the court system any longer. We did that. We set the precedent. I'm very proud of that, but it's over.
It's not either or. It's not either or.
Okay, well, that's fine. So the final point I'd say is Richard also goes down to then we need to have I agree with most of the stuff Richard said, but we need to have a model built of the Twin Towers, similar, I guess, to what they did with Tower 7. But I don't think that's really going to be a big payoff. What I think we need to do is our big point that we have as the real scientific truth of this process is the dust studies that were done. And, you know, there's a lot of work done there, Stephen Harris, the rest, and a lot of different people analyzing that, and even people from Judy Wood's side, you know, addressing that evidence. And they did a great job with the chemical evidence and the microscopic evidence. But what never was done by A&E, for reasons, was to actually quantify it. You know, it's never been quantified or correlated in terms of the buildings in any good way. If you look at all those reports, there's like maybe, you know, some of them are 78 pages and 80 pages, and they only devote one paragraph max to a half a page max to quantifying it to how much that would be, those quantities that they observe in their experiments relative to the towers and relative to the dust size, the dust sampling size. So that was our responsibility as architects, engineers, and physical scientists, is to correlate, you know, give us the size, how much of this stuff was there and what does it mean? And Richard attempts to do that and says 4 tons and 6%. And it's a little, you know, you ask Richard and it's pretty, you know, it's not very scientific. There's no mathematical calculation. I think any of these numbers have to have, if they're scientific quantities that were observed, you just say it. But if it's something that's extrapolated, as Richard has said, and says every day when he does these presentations, extrapolation, there has to be an equation that follows that we can publish. And he hasn't come up with that yet that I've seen, not when I've asked anyway, but we need that. We need those kind of extrapolations and those kind of calculations to be done. I think that's where the focus of the money needs to go, not towards building a mechanical model, but towards really quantifying the dust evidence. Okay.
Yeah, in my opinion, that doesn't need to be an either or either, but I hear you. Thank you.
Thanks for those comments, Ross. Appreciate it.
Go to Mike Cook.
Hey, thanks. Just something real quick on the CGI. The same thing I used for Stephen Jones. We were in close contact. I was writing up his nanothermite discoveries with AE at the time, and he contacted me and he's like, "What about this CGI?" And he'd seen a video, and I said, "I've seen it too. It looks like CGI, but CGI and actual plane crashes are not mutually exclusive. Both can happen, and if you're trying to push a no planes agenda, it would make sense that you could engineer this when you were still in the planning stages. We're not going to have a plane hit the Pentagon. Shanksville is going to be a mystery. There's obviously no plane in the official hole. And now we can push, there's no planes hitting the towers when there's tons of evidence for it. I got it on my list. I'm going to try and get my stuff up on Substack so people can look at it. People fall for this stuff, and it's a shame.
Yeah, my best argument against that is even if it becomes there was a plane or there wasn't a plane in Manhattan, the bigger question is, why does a fire-resistive steel-framed high-rise collapse globally, symmetrically, and against a path of most resistance by fire? And
those are very good points.
Yeah. So if there's a plane or not, those buildings still shouldn't have fallen like that.
And there shouldn't be nanothermite in the dust.
Yeah.
And,
yep.
Yeah. The ejection of the steel members, out, and those are not pieces of straw. They look like it, but they're multi-ton steel elements that are just flying off in every direction. So that's not gravity.
Yep. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Jack?
Yes, I just wanted to say that nobody should call Sue a controlled opposition, or Barbara, or Richard. The Sue puts in so much work, and she does a really good job. And as far as students in 15 states being told the official stories, students in 50 states are being told the official story.
Really hard to hear you, Jack.
Oh. Should I say the whole thing again?
Well, I heard the beginning, but you're there's the wire's loose or something.
Oh, shit. Well,
I could hear it, but you have to pay a lot of attention.
Yeah.
Don't pick on Sue. She does a whole lot of work, and she's not controlled opposition, and neither is Barbara or Richard. So people should definitely not say that.
Yeah. I think we should just stop mudslinging, trying to call everybody. But yeah, that's
It would have been appreciated, Gene, if you had called out Ross the moment that came out of his mouth.
Well, put you on mute. That's just really, that's too much. Yeah, yeah. This is the tough part of the 9/11 truth movement, or any movement. You have well-intentioned people. You have people with bad information, but they're really convinced of their information. You do have legitimate infiltrators. It's just here we are. This is what we have to deal with, and it's a really tight rope because, you might be well-intentioned. You see all the evidence that this definitely has to be disinformation. Then you call it, and now you're called a gatekeeper. So now, okay, you let this people talk about it, and it monopolizes the time. And if it is truly disinformation, you're now giving a platform for that. So it's just really hard to deal with. Sue, what do you got?
Yeah, first of all, I want to apologize to Carl and to you and Sandra and the rest of the participants about my losing my cool. That was not cool. Secondly, I just wanted to bring up a webinar I attended this weekend with Paul Delorius. And it was about, many of you know him as investigating the Lahaina fires, but this webinar was all about how to organize and how to run a group. And it was really, really valuable. And of course, I just broke one of the tenets by losing my cool. But, I really want to have more conversation with him because it's not easy running Boston 9/11 Truth and anyone else who runs an organization, especially a grassroots organization, trying to get everybody together. It's really very difficult, and I'm very protective of Boston 9/11 Truth, and sometimes I get triggered into being a mama bear about it. So just wanted to mention that.
Real quick on the Paul Delorier thing, I believe, Mike, if you can confirm for this, I think he's the next speaker coming up for TAP.
Actually, on Tuesday, we're having Peter Osborne.
Okay. But is Delorier coming up soon?
Yes, he's coming up very soon, I think, after Peter. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And he's going to be coming on board with us at TAB. We're going to be building quite a system. Just what Susan was talking about. So
it was excellent, truly excellent. A deep dive study into how to get grassroots organizations working properly. It was over an hour, but boy, that wasn't enough. I feel like I need to watch it again and study it in depth.
Yeah, if you could shoot the link, please. And Mike will come back to you, but I want to go ahead. So you had another point there.
Yeah, I also there's a activist church in Boston, the Community Church of Boston, and they give annual awards for activism, and they honored the USS Liberty this morning. They were going to have Phil Tournier on, but he was sick. So I'm hoping he recovers. The survivors of the USS Liberty are really aging out. So it's important to hear from them. I don't remember the name of the person they did have, but they did have a survivor accept the award in his place, and that was quite moving, his story. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. Craig.
Yeah, I want to just address the topic, I guess the hot topic quickly, but I do want to mention for anybody that's interested, I did do a critique of the AE statement that they released 2 or 3 weeks ago. I put that up a couple of days ago, and I actually, since Richard's plan got mentioned, I'll say I thought it was a pretty good plan, actually. And so I pretty critical in here of the fact that this was used as kind of ammunition against Richards for his failure to do. I'm still not clear on what exactly they were asking him that he didn't provide, and I think this kind of made the existing board look a little bit worse. I think when they put out that statement, I think they would have been much smarter to leave that part out. Anyway, so if you want to know, some people will not want to go into this, but if you want to know sort of, if you want to have that statement dissected, then it's there for you. On the subject of gatekeeping, I want to make one comment, because I actually have tried to make a point, and I've gotten called out for it before, of not telling people what they shouldn't talk about, but I do. But I mean, there are things I think we shouldn't talk about. But I mean, the way I've approached it is like, with the directed energy weapons and these types of topics, is like, if that's important to you to sort of talk about, then then go for it. But I choose personally not to, and I've been challenged to debate somebody, actually Maxwell Bridges, I think he was on the boss, and so he's been trying to get me to debate mini nukes for years, and it seems to frustrate him that I don't want to do it. And the reason I don't want to do it is not that I don't think I could muster up an opinion on it, but it's more that the amount of time it would take me to educate myself to the point where I could have that debate. I have other areas of 9/11 that I would rather put that time into. So, so I guess.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Gene. Sorry.
I add also, and it's difficult too, if you do invest all that time, it's in something that you already are like, I'm not so sure about this, and do I want to spend dozens of hours getting into something that I think is just wasting my time?
Well, sometimes, yeah, I wonder sometimes whether some people that are challenging you, to debate something might be doing that because they want to waste your time on purpose. I'm not necessarily saying that, accusing anybody directly, but I would say I kind of have decided on a principle that I use in terms of, and this is, even though I'm, we're all fascinated by different theories about things. I created that list back a few years ago, no 757 hit the Pentagon. And the purpose of that list was to put aside individual theories and to say, okay, what do we know didn't happen? And if we can prove that this, this impact didn't take place, then the official story is kind of killed. And that's kind of, so my thinking is, let's focus on on exposing the lies, and that will hopefully get, will attract the attention of new people. If we say, look, we can prove this is a lie, that what the government said is a lie. So when I mention, if I talk about something like gatekeeping, for me, it's not, it's when people don't want you challenge stuff where I think we can challenge the official story. And that's where I have a problem with the Pentagon being excluded in different situations, or Shanksville, or other things, is that, if we keep that same principle of what is provably false in the official story, then we should be talking about the towers and Building 7 and Shanksville and the Pentagon and the military exercises and a whole bunch of things. And I always think, that David Ray Griffin's approach is the kind of the approach that makes sense to me. He basically took that story and point by point dismantled it in a series of books. So that's my basic fundamental principle, is expose the lies. And that way you avoid getting off into, well, should we go into, CGI or something like that? Because I feel we can already prove that the towers were brought down with explosives. I don't think we necessarily gain anything by going into some of these particular areas. So I just wanted to say that, and I think I would like to know more from James Corbett about what he meant by this issue of gatekeeping is something we must confront in the movement. I'd like to hear more from him about that, because it sounded like he had something to say there, and I'm not sure I think there was more to hear, and I'm the last thing I'll just say, and then I'll stop. The last thing is, the one area where I would say we can go beyond simply exposing lies is when we get into, like, who is behind it. I think that's where it's perfectly appropriate to get into, building a scenario, because you don't have smoking gun proof necessarily of who gave what order at what time. So there is a certain amount of putting the pieces together that you have to do. So that would be where that would be my sort of exception to the just stick to the lies approach. So I'll stop there.
You're not going to get legal accountability without coming up with evidence as to what actually happened.
Exactly. Yeah.
Good point, Craig. I appreciate that. I also remembered something I wanted to say before about crime scene to courtroom. No, I forgot it again. That's ridiculous.
You gotta take notes. You gotta take notes. Come on. I'm gonna forget that.
Barbara, you were saying it was going to start at 5 p.m. Eastern, which is when we start. So hopefully you guys, over the last couple episodes, you started it like at 7 p.m. Eastern.
Well, let Richard speak, because that was my understanding with my phone conversation with Richard before this.
No. We're gonna start at 5 p.m. Pacific.
There we go.
Okay.
Right on. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. You make me decide, and that would not be a good decision. Thank you. Jetty, what you got?
Kind of following on from, am I coming through? Yeah. Kind of following on from what Craig's saying there. I think we have to sometimes take a step back and look at why we're doing this. We're doing this because we got lied to. In the official reports about 9/11, we didn't get told the truth. We all know that. So, for example, with the Pentagon, that's how you frame it, isn't it? To say, well, nothing should have hit the Pentagon. Whether something did or whether something didn't, nothing should have hit it. So we've not been told the truth about it. Similarly, with the direct energy weapon, whatever, space beam thing at the towers, you can agree with people and say, okay, you agree that these buildings were brought down in a controlled manner, other than the way that the report has been said. Now, surely we have to coalesce around some kind of format of saying that, to take that back. What is it we're looking for? We're looking for a new investigation. That means that we want this revisited. There's many ways you can have this. We, in my opinion, if we were going to have, for example, a finite element analysis model of the North Tower coming down, then Matt Campbell would have had that in his hand to take to his court, and it would have been a matter of court record, and it would have been there on the record, and they would have had to disprove it. That ship has sailed. We don't have that. And we've had the drawings and the data since 2018, 2019. We have to play with the hand that we've got and say, look, we need this reinvestigated. It's not on us to say what happened. That's not on us. That's on NIST to tell us the truth about what's going on. Anybody trying to put the onus back on this movement to say, yeah, we've got to say exactly what happened. No, we've got to force a new investigation into these matters. And we will never do that unless we can coalesce around a series of points that say, for example, this building was brought down in a controlled manner. Now, I could probably make a better job, as good a job as anybody in here, is saying, here's where you would put the charges to get it to come down that way. The fact is, somebody could turn around and say, okay, there was 3 tons of thermitic material held on floor 96 in big boxes. Where are we then? It's the more specific we get, the less chance we have. And that is just a plain fact. And if anybody believes for a heartbeat that NIST and your whatever federal agencies of your government is going to say, yeah, let's get a team of truthers up here to sit down and form this grand jury or whatever it is, and invite it, as laudable as it would be for them to invite a load of people from the truth movement to do that, is living in cloud cuckoo land. They're not going to do that. This isn't going to turn around and say, yeah, Richard, what do you want us to do? They're not going to do that. I wish they would, but they're not going to. The best chance we have is to attack them on their weak points. They lied about how much asbestos was in these towers. That's there in the emails, and people are dying from that today. That makes that actionable. And it makes it a good point to make in the court of public opinion. But if we're going to argue about whether it was a plane, whether it was a jammed donut, whatever it was that hit the Pentagon, then we're going to get absolutely nowhere. The fact is, what can we say? Nothing should have hit the Pentagon, and we've not been told the truth about it. And that's the point. The more specific you are, the more open you are. The fact is that we are looking for a reinvestigation into this. We're not doing the investigation. We have to, I think we have to formulate the task better than we have. Otherwise, we'll never coalesce around anything. I kind of that's what I take from that lecture this afternoon, and I would recommend everybody go and listen to it with an open mind. That's my opinion on it.
Yep. Thank you. And we have to remember the government created this environment for all of these conspiracies to take place, the conspiracy theorizing. If they would just give us more evidence, the Pentagon, between the Chandler side and the McKee side,
and the Honegger side.
Or the Honegger
okay,
side, or the Mason
but
side.
listen,
the government would go and support one side or the other, but they don't. They purposefully don't. They withhold information so they keep this infighting going.
Our movement's had enough money to sue the Pentagon for these videos a lot of years ago. We've had enough money to get a finite element analysis done on the North Tower. We haven't done it. So we can't walk in there and say, this is what happened, because we don't have that ability to do so. And like say Craig, I feel a bit sorry for Craig, because he's making a point that he totally believes in about the Pentagon. I look at David Chandler's video that he put out, and it's entirely convincing, and it's based in fact. So I have to look at what these two sides can coalesce with and say, okay, we've not been told the truth. Nothing should have hit it. But we have to look for common ground here. Otherwise, the 25th anniversary is just going to be shit.
That's a good point. Like, we should file a FOIA. Like, there had to have been surface-to-air missiles. There has to be. You just can't fly something into DC before 2001.
Exactly. There's SAMs on top of it. There has to be. Of course. Yeah.
Thank you, Jerry.
I'll wait my turn, but I do want to respond. But I'll wait my turn.
Thank you.
Kristen Breitweiser said they did have defensive missiles on the roof of the Pentagon.
All right. See, we should have backup for that. We should have papers and Thank you, Mike.
Okay. For over a year now, I've been calling for a reset for the 9/11 truth movement. We really need to stop using the term inside job. It's rather treason, not terrorism. That's the message that needs to be going forward. No more inside job. That is an infuriating term to people that don't understand. But when you tell them treason, not terrorism, they scratch their head. They think, oh, what treason was committed? So that's the first step I want to put out here. We need to reset the message, okay? Over a year ago at TAP, I've been implementing a strategy to build a dream team based on one issue alone, the most convincing evidence we have, the smoking gun of Building 7. Let's imagine for a moment, Ron Johnson succeeds with our help. Next week, we have, hypothetically, let's just imagine for a moment, next week we have a federal criminal grand jury that will be convened. Ron Johnson has asked us to put together a team of people that will help him decide what witnesses, what affidavits, what evidence will be presented to this grand jury. We have one shot alone. Do you think we're going to put before the grand jury David Chandler's video about planes hitting the buildings in the Pentagon? Or maybe should we put out the CGI videos of no planes? Or maybe we should use the Dore weaponry. Judy Wood, let's call Judy Wood and have her testify. I think you all realize I'm joking, because all three of those ideas are absurd ideas to use before a grand jury when you have one chance. We definitely want the Building 7 as evidence. We definitely want nanothermite as evidence. We want the prior knowledge captured on Israeli television that 3 Mossad agents had prior knowledge and they went there to document the event. And finally, we have the explosions that were witnessed by multiple firemen and other people that clearly heard multiple explosions like you would hear during a demolition. That's the kind of evidence we would want presented. We are in a state of chaos right now because we have no strategic, deliberative manner by which we are formulating our path forward. We need to stop, we need to regroup and put together an assembly with all of this information and present to Ron Johnson a document. And I would like to know where that document's at right now, who's in charge of formulating it, and why aren't more people being made aware of what the content of that document is, so that we could provide input, not at the last moment when it's presented days prior. We all should be working on this document together. And this is really a very unfortunate situation that we're in right now. It's total chaos, and we need to regroup and reset ourselves with logic and evidence, and not all of these crazy, ideas like planes, CGI, Dore weaponry. That's the last type of evidence we want to put before a grand jury. We talk about that stuff privately. That's the noisy bomb. We need evidence that penetrates the jury room. We want evidence that will pierce the mind and the soul of the jury members, where they will decide to pro-bill it and go forward with an investigation.
Put options. Put options.
Thank you, Mike. I agree with
that Mike just said put options. That needs to be added. Absolutely. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
I agree with most of that. First, clarification on things. A grand jury, that's the process of going to the and through the court.
You find probable cause when you present to a grand jury. That's all you're doing. Probable cause.
But what Ron Johnson's doing would be a Senate hearing in the permanent subject.
Well, I drew a hypothetical, Gene.
Okay.
I don't agree with Ron Johnson's idea and his strategy.
Okay.
If he can get a president, let me just finish, please.
I was finishing a thought, actually.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. I didn't know that. Go ahead.
I'm trying to clarify between two things. If you're talking about a grand jury, that's a whole other process through the judicial system. And what we're talking about with Ron Johnson is through the legislature.
Gene, I know that.
Okay.
I am very aware. Believe me. Okay, I'm the guy in the state of Florida that got two grand juries convened.
But
I stated when I began my proposal, hypothetically, I was just drawing a hypothetical scenario. Okay, that's all I was doing. And really, a presidential commission, hey, hallelujah, let's try for it. But really, the real bite is going to occur in a grand jury. That's where we get bark with, commissions. Warren Commission, 9/11 Commission. They make a lot of noise and they bark, but they don't bite. I yield.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, we've definitely got some issues. So there is a group that's together that's comprised of Richard Gage, Ted Walter, Raul Angulo, Mick Harrison. You guys know these names. In my opinion,
Pierce Robinson.
Pierce Robinson. Thank you. I'm just gonna say this, and you guys might not like it. It might hurt some feelings, but I'm just gonna say it. Here it comes. Certain people have gone through extraordinary efforts to be leaders in the movement, and they've, in my opinion, earned the right to be able to put things together and have earned the right from their efforts to get to these people. We all have those opportunities. Carl has stood out the Senate Hart office building and had a chance to, and has talked to Ron Johnson personally. So these avenues have been moving. I don't control them. I don't have any big input on them. I just hear what's going on. Like I said, Sandra and I are basically the town barbers, just picking up information as we hear it and trying our best to be as transparent and keep the movement as transparent with each other as we can. That said, that group of people are working on something, an outline, as I understand it, with those people, with Ron Johnson's people, and they would like to get some feedback, but they also have a pretty good idea of, and we should trust them in this, because what you're saying, Mike, I think resonates almost entirely with what they're doing.
Well, I'd like to see it for my own eyes. I don't trust anyone or anything anymore. And it trust but verify, Reagan used to say. I changed Reagan's idea. We verify, then we trust.
Yep.
Do you know that saying comes from Russia?
No.
That trust but verify comes from Russia, and we've used it on the big ass construction jobs I've done, where if you do something wrong, somebody can die.
Mm-hmm.
So you get information. Yeah, it's ready to go. Okay, I'm not just going to throw the switch and electrify somebody. I'm going to walk out there for myself and be sure there's nobody in there, and it is safe to start this thing, and I'll start it.
Mm-hmm.
Amen. But
Trust,
Gene, just to conclude with one quick sentence.
Mm-hmm.
The same strategy that I outlined for a grand jury applies to a presidential commission. The last thing we want to present to Ron Johnson is planes or no planes, do weaponry, and CGI. Those are taboo topics. We need to stick with hard, cold evidence.
Don't worry. It's not going to happen.
And
I hope you're right, Barbara.
And I want to commend Craig. When we were doing the 24th anniversary thing in DC, Craig very humbly said, I agree, the Pentagon shouldn't be a part of this, even though it eventually was. He said, yeah, lead with the Building 7, or actually it was the document for Weldon document that we're calling a Weldon document, even though it's not supposed to be called the Weldon document.
Yeah.
He's like, I get it. And that's cool that we can have level heads and in a consensus, which I'm loving this word now. It's amazing. I'm 53 years old. I'm just now realizing it doesn't mean unanimous 100%. It means that for the good of the group, we all agree, let's just move on with what we have here. And I think we're doing that right now. And I really like it. So thank you.
But for the record, I was against having anything on the Pentagon there.
Yeah. And we did. So yeah, there it is.
I will comment on that too when my turn comes, because
Mike, and the other point I was going to make about that, so that's on the PSI part, the permanent subcommittee part. The second part is for the 25th anniversary planning event, that everybody realizes we're the 9/11 Truth Movement, and nobody can speak on behalf of the 9/11 Truth Movement because this movement is crazy. But what we can agree is we got to at least hear or make an avenue for people to hear what they feel should be done. So I think what's happening is they're creating an email address, and we'll get more specifics about it later, but they're going to ask for people's input, but they want it to be concise. And I mean this lovingly, Roy McCoy, if you watch this later, if anybody's read an email from Roy McCoy, he will take what you had and separate sentences and put a volume. Next sentence, volume. Next sentence, and it's just like, we can't do that because we'll never get through it. So,
this is why we need to have open deliberations, not in closed rooms with 4 or 5 or 6 people. It needs to be open and transparent for everyone to see and hear.
Yeah. See, in that aspect, though, like if we did in the war room and we try to do a planning committee for anything, it'll go on 6 hours and people will be pulling their hair out.
Well, we've tried to get this before a court of law for what, almost 20 years now.
About the planning event for the 25th anniversary event.
I'm talking about everything. We have failed. We've had multiple attempts.
Tremendous progress.
Yes, we have, but
not failed.
But it was a new strategy that brought success.
And
the letter,
Richard Gage will not be pulling his hair out.
Okay. All right. I yield. Go ahead.
Thank you. Let's get through the hands. And then I know this is probably a topic we should make for a specific war room, because Sandra wasn't feeling good and she had to retire, but I want to get through these hands, and I would, if you guys don't mind, like to get through the room, go around the room. So Josh, go ahead.
On Tuesday, I participated in a call with John Kiriakou. It was hosted by Covert Action Magazine. John Kiriakou went to jail for exposing the CIA's torture program. He said he lost his wife. 4 out of his 5 kids don't talk to him. He lost his pension, and that he's going to probably have to work until the day he dies. I asked him about Hazmi and Midar with regard to the CIA failure to notify the FBI. He said the CIA was willing to risk a massive terrorist attack instead of informing the FBI. The FBI wanted to arrest Hazmi and Midar, and he said the CIA wanted to recruit them. So I think he's aligned with Mark Rossini's view that the CIA wanted to recruit Hazmi and Midar. My view is still that the CIA was working with the Saudis to ensure that a major terrorist attack happened on U.S. soil on 9/11. Another person asked John Kiriakou if he supported Ron Johnson's efforts for a 9/11 investigation. John Kiriakou said he supported it. He wanted to especially look into the Saudi and Israeli roles regarding 9/11. And I asked John Kiriakou about Abu Zubaydah. I asked whether Abu Zubaydah had any nexus to militant or terrorist activities. He said Abu Zubaydah provided logistical support, but he never pledged loyalty to Al-Qaeda. And John said he conveyed to Abu Zubaydah through Zubaydah's lawyer his best regards, and that he felt bad for ruining his life, and that Abu Zubaydah conveyed to John Kiriakou through his lawyers that he also gave him his best regards. So it was a very interesting conversation with John Kiriakou.
Where is Abu Zubaydah now?
I believe he's in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba still. He's considered Abu Zubaydah is a forever prisoner. And John Kiriakou said the Biden administration wanted to release him, but they couldn't find a country to take him.
So they say.
So they say.
Thank you, Josh. I really have a heart for the geopolitics guys, because to me they're kind of speaking Japanese, but I'm starting to learn Japanese. So thank you.
Thank you.
Carl.
Yes, I put a link in chat to a brand new book, to me at least. I'm not sure it's ever been spoken of here. It's 9/11 Explained to the FBI. If you could show the cover of that.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, it's actually it popped up on my radar. Somebody wrote basically a critique or review of it at Un's Review, but it approaches things from the viewpoint of Arnon Milchan. That's not it. Arnon Milchan, Israeli spy, self-confessed Israeli spy, has been a producer of a number of Hollywood films, all of which seem to have contained predictive programming. And the one that came out just before 9/11. Who was that?
Came out.
Yeah,
just recently.
So yeah, if I can finish it. Yeah, so the film, which I'd seen and I hadn't really liked it, I think because there was gratuitous death, like terrorism in it. Just before 9/11 was titled Swordfish with John Travolta in the lead, kind of like a Bin Laden-like character. So interestingly, Milchan lived in Paris, and Swordfish debuted in Paris on September 12th, 2001. But of course, as many other films, whether it be Fight Club or, he produced JFK. And of course, JFK points everywhere except at, potentially Zionist influence to get Johnson into power, to let Israel have nukes, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a very brief book. I just received a copy. Now, I put a link. I don't know if you have time for this. Not sure I've shown it before.
Hang on one second. If anybody wants to buy it, $16 on Amazon. All right, go ahead, Carl. Keep going.
I raised Arnon Milchan. I mean, how many of us have ever gotten to personally ask Oliver Stone a question? And I put a link in the video. I actually asked Oliver Stone to talk about Milchan, as well as to address the question of whether Kennedy's removal was a coup by Zionists, foreign and domestic, let's say. And you'll see true gatekeeper functioning by Jefferson Morley there, as well as a few minutes into the video. The JFK community's Zoom call is called JFK Facts, and you'll see Jefferson Morley utterly flustered, trying to, I think he'd had one glass too many of red wine before trying to moderate the call, and he just, loses it. That video, maybe it goes about 9 minutes to where there's remarkable footage of James Angleton describing that, basically Western intelligence agencies
Hello,
are.
and welcome to the third annual David Ray Griffin Lecture.
Wait, who's doing that?
Hosted by the International Center for 9/11 Justice and our friends at UK Column.
Hang on a second.
I'm Ted Walter, Executive Director of the International Center for 9/11 Justice. And it is our honor to welcome you to this symposium.
Did I do that?
First, I would just like to give a brief overview of the awesome lineup of speakers and panelists who will be joining us today. Richard Ellefritz, Professor Richard Ellefritz would be.
Sorry, guys.
It's all right.
Well, before you show, if you're going to show that clip,
I'm not going to play the whole 9 minutes.
This one actually is very brief, and I think it will be a bit of a icebreaker for everybody, because it conveys messages about a lot of history in just a minute. The one that's an Instagram post, but if you can show this one from the beginning, or
I'm not gonna do a 9-minute video right now, but if anybody wants to check it out, and I will check it out, it'll be in the chat. This first
the link will be in the chat.
Yes, the link is in the chat right now. It's at 6:35 p.m.
So, and thank you to Sue Serpa. Now, Sue, I accept and thank you for your apology. No hard feelings. Presuming that you're rescinding your accusation that I accused you, because I didn't. I was just asking you about the other guy who has been discussed on this call as having accused you. So, all right, that's forgotten. And Gene, before you show this Instagram video, which has to be shown, I want to ask you to retract or explain your Hitler comment, that really all of us should be treated fairly by the moderator and not have innuendo thrown at us like that. And I would like you to reprimand Brian Good for breaking microphone silence to call me asshole. You did not chastise him at the time. You need to protect all of us equally.
Nobody should be swearing at each other. This is a civil discussion that gets a little rowdy at times. I realize
there will be no fighting in the war room.
Yeah. And I forget what I was trying to make an analogy that was like, yeah, it was slippery slope analogy with the Hitler thing. I wasn't calling you Hitler or anything like that. But
I'm not a big Nick Fuentes fan, but it's interesting that even Tucker has allowed Fuentes to have a platform to talk about. I don't know. But that's actually one of the issues at Heritage, probably why Ben Shapiro is talking at Heritage as like President Kevin Roberts' apology tour for having not adequately criticized Tucker for giving a stage to Fuentes. So it's sort of ironic that it might provide a stage for a Liberty survivor to correct Fuentes about, or correct Shapiro about saying the Liberty was an accident, doesn't mean anything. So please show this brief video clip. It was actually referred to me by Phil Turney, and it's amazing how the music and in the background, it's actually two overlaying music themes. It sort of opens your conscience to just accepting the captions at the bottom, which cover much of the last 60 years of history.
All right, here we go.
Hey, teach me how to do it. Hey, baby, like smooth. What? Can you teach me how to do it? You know why? Cause all the bitches love it. All I need is a beat that's super bumpin'. And for you to back it up and dump it. Put your arms out front, lean side to side. They gon' be on you when they see you hit that dirty ride. Ain't nobody fucking with my bro from Morningside. He go by Bubba and he hit that dance like thunder. Okay, I ain't from Dallas, but I need town boogie. I show my moves on to everybody trying to do it. I lead the functions and all the ladies trying to screw it. Now you just do you, and I'ma do it.
Yeah,
niggas love to hate, so they try to shoot me. Bitches be stuck to me. I think they try to glue me. I make the party shine bright when it started gloomy. This beat was bubble gum, so I had to chew it. Taste me how to do it. Taste me how to do it. Taste me how to do it. Taste me.
There we go.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that 9/11 was a setup. So instead of inside job, setup. I mean, that's maybe street lingo for a false flag.
Gene, I don't see that link in the chat yet.
It's up at 6:35 p.m.
I don't know where to get the time. I don't know where it is.
Doesn't everybody all have the time there?
I'll upload it again.
Yeah, thank you,
If
Carl.
you could put it again, thanks.
Thanks, Carl. Go to Ross.
Yeah, okay. And so in all due respect to Barbara Honegger and Craig McKee, this comment is basically going to be addressed to Craig and of course the whole movement going forward. Craig, I really appreciate, and I think that you really do intend to convey the truth, and I think you do. I think you really do convey truth about what your specificity on the Pentagon is. And but I do want to say that I do think that you do not make the cut, or the Pentagon does not make the cut in terms of being promoted to Ron Johnson at this point. The main reason being is what you've said, is that your evidence shows that the government, it shows definitively the government was involved in 9/11 in the cover-up. And I agree with that, and I think it's very important. But it is not that important, really, because we're not talking about the government being the problem here. Some of us might be, but the government's merely an accomplice in 9/11. There are forces above the government that are working to control the government and have been throughout history that are much higher above the government. So the idea that our judicial system and our government is the one that did 9/11 is the one we need to go for, they're not the ones responsible. So I don't think the Pentagon makes the cut for that reason. And well, anyway, that's that for tonight.
But they're complicit.
There it is. Thank you.
Yes,
And here comes
they
Craig
are.
for a response.
This is good timing, actually, because originally I was ahead of Ross, but now I can kill both birds with one stone. So I actually agree with you, Ross, on one level. I agree with you that there are bigger forces above government levels that are involved in this. I agree with that. However, I still think proving, as Barbara just interjected, proving government complicity is a valuable part of exposing the lie of the event, and that's why I think the Pentagon is important. Clearly, the Pentagon is a location where no one else can plant evidence or stage evidence, or except the government. So if you prove the government's complicit, then you can go on and prove other people are complicit too. But I think that's important. That's why I think that it's important. I did want to mention. Actually mention that on the subject of Arnon Milken, he also produced a movie called The Medusa Touch in the 1970s, which shows a plane flying into a high-rise building. And I haven't seen it in quite a while, so I can't remember. I don't know what city that was in or whatever, but it's pretty interesting that. And Fight Club, of course, is the obvious one, which came out in I think '99. This is there you go, The Medusa Touch, Richard Burton, and well, there you go, there it is. So that's one I've got, and I want to rewatch sometime soon. A quick comment on what you said about how what I think I remember saying about the Pentagon and the document was that I understood why we wouldn't put it in the Weldon document, because it's kind of like getting your foot in the door kind of a thing. And it's, so I do agree that you have to kind of make choices when it comes to that. However, where it gets dicey is if you leave the impression that there's nothing else outside, let's say Building 7, or if you leave the impression that, well, the rest of the story is okay, it's just this one thing, you can actually without intending to, you can weaken the whole case for the thing being a fraud, because you're kind of making it seem like everything lines up except this one thing. And so that's why I always say that it was the totality of the evidence that won me over originally. So now, and the main thing I want to respond to is what Jerry was talking about, and I agreed with a little bit of what Jerry was saying when he said, because I took notes here because I don't trust my memory either. That we can't sort of definitively say what happened, and that we have to sort of not try to put forward exactly what happened. And I agree with that. However, when it comes to the Pentagon, I have a problem with the point he's making there, because I honestly think in 2011, when David Ray Griffin decided to unveil his consensus approach on the Pentagon, which was really a major concession, I thought, and it really was basically saying, well, nothing should have been able to hit the building, so Hani Hanjour should not have been able to do it. But that point of view is a very mild, and I would say weak, a weak position, and it has not achieved anything in the 14 years since. So I do not think that's, something should not have, because even if you can prove something shouldn't have, that doesn't mean that there wasn't some, somebody could say, well, there was a malfunction of the missiles in the Pentagon. People can squirm out of the evidence in a lot of ways. So to me, it's I'm sorry, I'm just looking at my notes here. If the focus is on here's why the story doesn't add up, I don't think we have a problem with that. I'm not trying to say here's the theory that we have to push forward. The theory, and that's why I'm not a big fan of missiles, Global Hawk, Sky Warrior, whatever. Even though there may be evidence that people want to put forward on those. To me, it's like, the evidence is clear that a 757 did not hit that building. And there was a mention, okay, I wanted to get to Chandler too. I have no idea why anyone finds David Chandler's Pentagon presentations convincing or in any way. It boggles my mind, honestly, that there are still people in the Truth Men. And I just urge you to get into the evidence more deeply before all of you, any of you, before sort of saying, well, there's this point of view, but then David Chandler is also convincing. I don't see how anybody thinks that.
I think,
and that's unfortunately where our movement has gotten paralyzed on this issue.
Thank you, Craig. That was a joke.
Don't get nervous, Gene. Don't get too nervous.
No, I said
it's okay to say that I don't agree with David Chandler.
Oh yeah. You missed my joke. I said you must be gatekeeping, but no, you're not. I get it.
Oh,
but...
I see. No, I think everybody should look at David's presentations and dissect them for themselves.
Yes. Excellent. Well said.
Well, look at all of our presentations on the Pentagon at the conference.
That goes without saying, Barbara.
Yep.
Yours and mine, no
I
question.
said it anyway.
And Xander's.
Except Carrie Masons. Yeah, just kidding. Right. Mike Figa. If that's you, Mike Figa, I don't know. Whoever has a hand up named Mike, because we got a lot of mics here.
Yeah. Sorry about that. No, I'm playing fool. I was trying to get away from the sound here. Just a question maybe for Barbara and other people with the Lawyers Committee and on the call. And I apologize if there's background noise. My headphones might take care of it. Two questions I had. Are there any other foreign nationals who might have standing? The UK is, just as controlled as everyone else. But, I just looked and there was no one from Iceland. But I guess I was wondering if we've reached out or attempted to have a case brought by someone who has standing in a foreign nation that might have a little bit more freedom.
Yes,
and then the other thing was Freedom of Information Acts. Basically, they're equivalent in foreign countries where, you might get a rogue response where their intelligence agency has a very firm opinion that's been written. So
the answer,
just wondering what people thought.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Go ahead, Barb, to answer that. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, I've got answers to those questions. The first one about foreign nationals, there were, the last I read, there was at least one.
Sorry, I can't hear anything. I don't know if my audio's out.
Yeah, she's definitely saying something. Go ahead, Barb. Yeah, she's.
Well, I'm answering Mike's question, so he needs
go ahead.
to
He just can't hear you for some reason. Go ahead.
Sorry, I can kind of hear now if I put the phone up. I don't know why my headphone.
Oh, you can hear me now, Mike? Mike?
Yep. Yeah, I can.
Okay. Yeah. Interject if you can't, because I'm answering your question. So your first question is about foreign nationals who could be brought in, like the Matt Campbell and his family. The answer is yes. First, about the British, I think there's something like 24 UK citizens who died on 9/11. One place or another, one plane or the towers or whatever. And Matt Campbell has spoken to that. I'm not sure you're aware of it. I'm just starting with Britain now, just starting with the UK. Matt Campbell has spoken to that. And what he says is, well, maybe there's one or two other families, but he has reached out. He has gone to, there are gatherings of some of the victims' family members, UK victims' family members, and they're extremely hesitant to get involved. However, if he wins his case, he expects a number of them to join the new inquest as plaintiffs.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. And I, by the way, I apologize if anyone was talking when I was giving my monologue. My headphones stopped giving me audio back. Yeah, but I mean, I think definitely not the UK. Well, his is going forward and is obviously a great
shot.
I
have an answer. I haven't finished.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry. Continue.
Yeah, I haven't finished my answer at all. The Lawyers Committee has reached out. We made a major effort to attempt to do this in Italy. And that was when the former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court in the nation of Italy, Impossimoto, he was a big supporter of 9/11 Truth, and four of us from the 9/11 Truth movement, including Jane Clark and myself, she's the executive director of the Lawyers Committee, I'm the board chair, we actually went into our own pockets and we flew to Rome and we met with Chief Justice Impossimoto, and we even brought him to the 2016 Justice in Focus meeting in anniversary event in New York City. And we had, he was actually working with us to believe it or not, even though he was no longer officially on the Supreme Court, the way the system works there, he was actually made the honorary, I forget his title, but they basically made him the honorary head of it, even though he had officially retired. And so he still was able to work and have input and collaborate with the magistrate justices. Now in Italy is a very important country. And the reason by the way, there were about 24 Italian citizens who were victims of the 9/11 attacks as well. Okay, including the planes. And so we chose to go there first. The Lawyers Committee did. And we took, world famous public interest attorney Daniel Sheehan with us. Daniel Sheehan is one of my personal friends and neighbor here in the Monterey Peninsula of California. He and his partner, Sarah Nelson, Jane Clark, and I, we met with Justice Imposamoto a number of times in Rome. And we brought him to the United States. And the bottom line of why we chose Italy is because in their system, the judges are also the investigators. So you don't have a prosecutor. If you have a justice who believes, for whatever reason, he's seen loose change, whatever. If you have a justice who believes that something should be investigated, they can initiate that investigation. They don't separate the prosecutorial aspect, the investigatory aspect of the prosecutor's office in Italy. And so we met with him, and we were actually in the process of moving forward on that when he died. He had a state funeral like JFK's, which you can watch on the video. He was an amazingly influential person. And the timing was terrible, his death. We also reached out to some other countries, and I'd have to go back to Jane Clark. This was a few years ago, and there were problems with getting the issue is that so many of the victims' family members, it's just still too raw for them. Most of them just can't go there. That their own government could have been complicit somehow, even in the cover-up, let alone in the United States or Britain or, Israel in the actual complicity, or Saudi Arabia, whatever. So there are also issues about, believe it or not, you can think of some of the alleged hijackers as victims and their family members, because presumably they died, but right after 9/11, starting on the day of and the day after, there are between 6 and 8 alleged hijackers who are still alive. And they're reported by the BBC and other mainstream mainstream media outlets around the world, including in Saudi Arabia and Pakistan.
Their IDs had been stolen for use in an intelligence operation.
Yeah, exactly. And the FBI has acknowledged that, and as Mick Harrison, who was our litigation director in the Lawyers Committee, he's still a litigating attorney for the Lawyers Committee, but we don't happen to have a litigation director right now because we don't have the funds to pay one right now. But as Mick Harrison mentioned in his presentation at the DC conference, the FBI has acknowledged that they are not sure who the hijackers were, but they've never officially, publicly, walked back on that, just kind of private conversations. And also, when Mick Harrison and Dave Meiswinkle, who was our president of the Lawyers Committee at the time, when Mick and Dave went on an investigative trip to Shanksville, and they actually went to the office of the coroner, and they spoke to him and looked at the photographs. He brought things out. He took them into the vault, etc. And he revealed to Mick and Dave that the FBI officially asked the coroner at Shanksville not to put in an official request for death certificates for the hijackers. We'll wonder why. They didn't know who they were, even though they told the public almost immediately after 9/11. One of the biggest suspicious things about the FBI rolled out the names of these alleged hijackers, even though they knew they didn't know who they were.
Yeah, and if people haven't seen, what is it, Venice and the Flying Circus, it goes into Muhammad Atta, who spoke Hebrew and drank and did drugs, and clearly just a Mossad cutout persona.
Welcome to Terrorland, his book,
Well, yeah, yep.
So
and then I guess
there are some other countries. I will on a future 9/11 War Room. I'll talk to Jane, and she was the one who reached out to some of these other countries. But Italy was the big one, and then Judge Impossible passed away.
Yeah, and I was surprised.
Sorry, Mike. I didn't mean to interrupt you there.
Yeah, go ahead, Craig.
I was just going to say there were also 24. It's hard to believe that number is right for all these countries, because there were 24 Canadians also in the towers.
Yes, Canadian.
Yeah. So I've often thought about that, and about, I wonder who those people are and what they think. I have a feeling that they're probably, not in the truth movement, but there's another example.
Yeah, and I was going to say maybe post, and I don't know when you guys did this a few years ago, and the Italian judge is great, but if someone wants to cold call or give evidence, because post-COVID, post-October 7th, as Let It Happen, which a lot of people actually probably get, and obviously what happened in Gaza, there's a lot more outrage and awareness, and maybe some victim family members are going to be confident if you reapproach them.
No, I do have one other major thing to answer your question, and that is, to my surprise, I didn't know it. The last time, can't remember what it was, maybe it was at the DC conference, but where I was sitting at the VIP luncheon next to Matt Campbell, so we had a good long conversation. I can't remember exactly where this came out, but to my surprise, I learned that maybe it was in the DC conference presentation he made himself. Live stream. But anyway, he revealed just recently something I didn't know, and that is that he is one of the plaintiffs, and I believe his father and maybe his mother, and anyway, but he himself is a plaintiff in the big case against Saudi Arabia, the huge 6,000 9/11 victims' family members. So if he, being a UK citizen, is one of the plaintiffs in that case, it's probably likely that there are citizens from other countries who lost family members, and we should try to find out. I don't know if that's covered by privacy or not.
All right. I want to throw something else a little bit junk in there. That Terry Mason, who supports the missile being fired at the Pentagon, he had written in an article, this is a direct quote, informed by his staff that a Russian satellite had observed a missile being fired from a Navy ship off the coast of Washington at the Pentagon, the president of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, tried to contact his U.S. counterpart. He was unable to do so. So I had tried to write the Kremlin, which is ridiculous because you have to do a translation, send something in to say, hey, can we get some more information on that? So is it possible to do a FOIA request in Russia? But anyway. Thank you.
Well, there's another wrinkle to that claim, and that is that the United States, when the Kursk submarine went down with nuclear missiles on it, and the other wrinkle to that claim, I think it was on Veterans Today, was that was actually one of the Russian missiles that the Navy diver retrievals and special ops guys went down and got. And that I don't buy this. I don't buy either version of the story, but nevertheless, this is the claim that was a missile, a Russian missile from the Kursk that they were, like the Cuban Missile Crisis. It was like Air Force General Curtis LeMay trying to blame Russia for attacking the Pentagon using one of their missiles that they had actually taken from the Kursk.
Thank you. Mike?
Yeah, just briefly, I just wanted to say regarding the Pentagon, up at Ohio State University back in 2010, 2011, we had an extended opportunity with the students to set up a booth, and we had a big table, and it was an event that happened for weeks. And we had video screens, big, large screens with the Pentagon video of the object hitting the Pentagon. And then we also had still shots of the Pentagon for the first 45 minutes. And everybody that walked up and asked, where is the airliner? Where did the airliner hit? They could not reconcile the minor bit of damage to an airliner hitting it. I didn't find one person that agreed with the government's story that an airliner hit the Pentagon. Now, after the roof collapses, 45 or so minutes later, then that's a different story. But we all know that happened much later, and the initial impact was observed and demonstrated by minimal damage. So I'm with Craig. It's absurd.
Don't say initial impact unless you know that, and we do not know that.
Well, the evidence shows that there was no airliner outside of the Pentagon nor inside. The hole was not big enough for an airliner to penetrate it. That does not take a rocket scientist or an engineer.
You seem to be, I'm only saying the way you're presenting it, when you say the initial impact, you're implying that you're buying it did hit the building. So you're kind of arguing against yourself with the verdict.
No. I don't believe an airliner hit the building.
Okay,
absolutely not. There's no evidence
I just
for it.
recommend you don't use the words initial impact at all. Okay.
Barbara, didn't your research indicate that maybe that section of the Pentagon had been recently renovated and that perhaps explosives were built into the structure?
Well, that's actually in Kevin Ryan's book, Another 19.
I thought it was also in your. Don't you have a video out?
Yeah.
Well, of course I do, but I don't. I don't know what you mean by built.
You don't adopt that position?
Let me answer, please, without being interrupted. Okay. You're talking about my documentary that's been out 11 years, Behind the Smoke Curtain. It's on Rumble. Okay. What happened at the Pentagon, what didn't on 9/11, and why it matters. All right. What I do is I marshal the evidence. It goes on for 2.5 hours. I marshal the evidence of pre-placed explosives at the Pentagon, just like at the World Trade Center and World Trade Center 7. That's the main message. Now, your question implied that I ever said or hypothesized, which I don't. It's Kevin Ryan who does explicitly in his book, Another 19, that there were bombs, basically, or controlled demolition explosives intentionally put in the wall for the alleged impact point. In Behind the Smoke Curtain, I make that explicit claim and back it up with lots of evidence for the so-called exit hole on the inside of the third ring. I do not make that claim that they were actually embedded in the wall, or attached to the wall, shaped charges or something like Kevin does.
All right. Thanks. It is interesting that Wedge 1 had construction the months before 9/11 happened, and that was the only wedge that had those
for a long time before, and the very next day, at most 48 hours later, they were going to have their ceremony, closing down, announcing, celebrating the completion of the Wedge 1, and they were going to start using controlled demolition explosives in Wedge 2.
Thank you, Barb. Mike, you done? Zarzano?
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, though, that we had hundreds of people looking at these videos and the pictures, and they all agreed that there was no proof an airliner hit the Pentagon.
Correct.
And it's that simple. And to try to say that it penetrated it is absurd. And I just don't, I'm with Craig. I don't know how Chandler and those that agree with him can conclude that. It's laughable.
Well, they can, but they do.
They say they can.
Do, and they basically
they can.
All right. Okay.
They do.
No. I reject that.
I love you guys. JB, what do you got?
Yeah, we were chatting earlier about us having our ducks in a row for what we're offering Senator Johnson with more hard evidence, documents, and procedures, which can be effective legal justice and accountability wise. Congresswoman Anna Luna out of Florida earlier this year made an announcement about looking into a 9/11 investigation. Any possible news flashes I've missed?
No, I was actually
We
thinking of
don't
that
have
yesterday. I was going to start to
absolutely
send
zero.
her. Thanks. Hey, I got it, Barb. Anna Luna, yes, on the task federal secrets, did make that promise, and I was thinking about that yesterday, so I was going to write her an email like, hey, where are we with this? She did leave that as like one of the last things on the list, so yeah, we'll be hitting her up. There's our action item, as I would like action items if everybody wants to send Anna Luna an email. And if you go to her website, the contact form, if it says, oh, you don't live in her district, you can't ask the question, go down to the bottom of the page and grab her local office address, and then you'll be able to get through the web form. So there's the action item. Thanks. Mike Figa.
Yep. So Barbara brought up the Italian judge, which just made me think of something to suggest for you guys for the report. It's not really hard evidence, but if they compile for the appendix a list of quotes for knowledgeable or influential or experts or people with serious weight, that might be something to include in the report, just to help people realize, this former Supreme Court justice, came to this conclusion, or whoever it may be. But
Good idea.
we might, yeah, and we might get some new quotes because Tucker and everything that's happened in the last few years, I don't think anyone's really gone through. I mean, I have one somewhat prominent person off the record who says, whatnot, not high enough level for the report, but could be another side project or appendix piece.
Thanks, Mike. We'll go to Carl. And going around. Thank you, Mike. We're going to Carl and then around the room. We're now 2.5 hours.
Yes, the Italian judge also would have been very familiar with Operation Gladio, the NATO false flag attacks over a number of years, meant to be blamed on communists in order to cause communism to fall into disfavor in Italy. And the climax of which was a bombing of the Bologna train station, which I think 200 some were killed, and it was proven to be a NATO operation, which is kind of amazing. I think we need to remember that arguably a founding member leader at the inception of 9/11 is Christopher Berlin, and the research he did and the articles he put together are foundational, and he should be included in what is compiled. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Yeah, if anybody can get a hold of Chris, we can't seem to get any contact back from him, any correspondence. But if anybody can, please let him know. Yeah, we would like to talk to him. So thank you.
Well, just to finish the thought, it really
that was
well. We are far removed from what the church committee was back in the 70s when people like James Angleton actually were called in to testify and were even taken into closed session, whereas now when it's being delegated to the a small group of like 100 people out of 300 million to pull together and decide among themselves what's going to be presented. So Senator Johnson, he has not yet called out for or created a resolution to free any 9/11 responders from their, quote, non-disclosure agreements. And I've explained before that when I left the government, I was suddenly presented with an NDA covering my whole career, and I just wrote under protest. And I view that as, resolving the question about having to conceal treason, in other people's activities. So, but Senator Johnson, if he wants more people to come forward, Richard, please mention to him he should go on someone's podcast and say, hey, this fellow who talked about going through the rubble also told me about non-disclosure agreements. And all you folks out there, we've got your ass covered if you decide to come forward. So please do.
All right. Thank you. Go around the room real quick. I already lost like 10 people because this has just gone on way too long. Normally I would like to end at 7. So going around the room, let's start with Richard. Richard, anything for the group?
I agree that most people can't afford a 3-hour-long call, and it takes more than half an hour to go around the room.
Yeah.
So I would I would try to do my best if I were you, although I don't know how, to trim this call through facilitation to 2 hours max. Anyway, just wanted to thank everybody for being here, and we'll catch up with you next week.
Right on. Thank you, Richard. I'm going to go next and just say that it started off rough, and people said some hard things, but altogether, I think we all agree in the consensus approach. And it was great hearing some apologies. I gave apologies too. I'm trying to do better, not to get heated. But in this kind of environment, we're all talking about hard topics. That happens. But gatekeeping is definitely probably the most hot button issue in the 9/11 truth movement and how to get around it. And we'll be talking about that more. So let's continue around with this. If you guys keep it under like 20 seconds, 30 seconds, we can get through this. Mike Cook, anything for the group as you're getting to the mute button? You're still muted. 2.
I think you need 2 war rooms.
Right.
One that's going to be like an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours max, and another one will just go on all night.
Yeah, I can't afford. Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
In your spare time.
Yeah. Brian, anything for the group, sir?
No, thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Barb?
No, I've done a lot of talking. Thanks.
Thanks, Barb. Mike Zarzano?
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to Craig's mentioning of Arnon Milchan. He also produced not only Medusa Touch, but The Lone Gunman.
Right.
Just months before 9/11, extensively when we had our 5-hour meeting with Kurt Weldon, Carl Schwartz, Captain Dan, and others, Colonel Watkins, Pentagon Colonel Watkins. So it's on our Rumble channel, and it's part 1, and I go into detail about Arnon Milchan and what he produced and how it was ideation for the 9/11 crime. But anyways, talk. We're going to have Peter Osborne.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Magnus, anything for the group?
Wow, thank you so much, everybody, and keep up the great work. And looking forward to 9/11 Crimes in the Courtroom, episode 5. And sad I didn't have a head to actually use the screen to join the event and watch David Ray Griffin, but I will watch it. And thank you, everybody. Keep up the great work.
You too. Keep warm up there in Norway, Magnus. Thank you.
Yeah, it's actually 5 inches now,
Okay.
the snow here.
About the same as Pittsburgh, except you're a lot cooler. Thank you. Craig, anything for the group?
I would just make a quick comment, and this is a topic for another day. The question of consensus. I think that's a very charged word and has like serious limitations to it, even though it sounds on the surface like it's a good objective. We had the consensus panel, and for example, and it led to, their idea of consensus was to block certain evidence, and that's too complicated to get into now. But so that word needs some discussion on its own, I would say, along with gatekeeping.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Okay,
David.
Nothing, but thank you, Gene, and best to Sandra. Hope she feels better.
Thank you. I'm going to check on her shortly. Jack, anything for the group?
Yes, Arnon Milchan, by the way, is the guy who charged Netanyahu for demanding a bribe, which he's now getting pardoned for asking for. I think we're going in the wrong direction. I think we need to let the court of public opinion decide this, because there's a lot of young people who are very open-minded who are demonstrating, for example, against this war in Venezuela. There's a lot of them out there, and I think we need to deal with them and not keep arguing about details.
2 things on what you said there. BB Files, if anybody hasn't seen it, got to see that, because it talks about the milk and BB. There's a lot there. And 2, that's exactly what they talked about also in the David Ray Griffin lecture about we need to win the court of public opinion. We're still not there, but we are definitely gaining huge grounds on that. So thank you, Jack. Sue, anything for the group?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Thanks. Ross?
Yes. So on the topic of the infiltration that we're talking about, I'll give you my opinion, and that is that first of all, that a lot of people have been compromised. Obviously, most people in the movement have been at various levels, subconsciously or consciously, directly compromised. And I think that the Pentagon, anybody that thinks that a plane hit the Pentagon has obviously been compromised. And some of them, like Wayne Costy, have been, I think, were brought into the movement as infiltration.
We're not going to.
But the point is, too, and I hope, we'll see where Richard ends up with this, and Barbara and everybody. And I hope, in a way, that they have been compromised in the sense that I want them to survive. I don't want them to be killed because they're going to throw themselves on the sword of truth, which I don't want them to do. So I'm hoping that there will be some kind of compromise for them, for them to survive and still continue to do what they do. And what I just said, it means nothing, really. That's what I think is so beautiful about hardcore truth, is that it's much bigger than any of those things that the CIA or any other control people want to throw at you. It's much more about our deep DNA. We're all different. We're all quite different, these people on this call. And it's about our DNA in the end, Richards and everybody, no matter how much we've compromised, that will end up making the decision for us as humans and as human beings and as humanity. So I think that's our strength. Doesn't matter who's compromising us or how much, whether it's bad or good for the movement, our DNA in the end of the day will make the right decision.
All right. Thank you, Ross.
Well, that's positive.
Jerry? We're all chess pieces. Go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, Gene, I commend your powers of diplomacy and your patience. I wish I shared them, but yeah, commend that. I hope Sandra's okay. Give her my best.
Thank you, sir. Benjamin. Sorry.
Hey, yeah, so I'm gonna put this link really quick. There's a little bit of echo. I don't know whose it is, but this is a focus from when we're engaging with disagreements. You could stick to the facts, but there's also another side that's just as important, which is the rhetorical skill. And this video is actually how a debate between a fake flat earther and a real scientist. And the fake flat earther uses rhetorical skills to win against the person who's obviously correct. And it had nothing to do with the facts, but this YouTuber, his name's Rationality Rules, and he always goes over logical fallacies, rhetorical tactics, and it's useful for whatever position you land on. Because it's funny, you guys are talking about Pentagon around the room, because I'm coming into this and I don't know anything about the Pentagon, all those details. Like, my first encounter with it was David Chandler's video and all those other stuff. So I almost feel nervous to say what I think right now, but I'm pretty convinced that the World Trade Center was destroyed, and to all the people I hang out with in real life, that's already way too crazy. So I'm like, that's just where I stand, and I'm not dogmatic. I want to know what's going on. So that's my 2 cents.
I agree. Thank you. Yeah, there's been a preponderance of no plane on the call today, but I can say that varies from call to call. So yeah, go with what the evidence leads you to believe, and you can't go wrong there. So, well, you can, but yeah, you know what I mean.
You can.
Oh boy. Thank you, Benjamin, for being here, and I will definitely watch that because it is interesting. Like, people that argue with Mick West, a lot of people here have argued with Mick West. I've watched threads, listened to Tony Zambodi those two go at it. But Mick is talented in his ability to debate, and if you have that skill, that's a valuable skill. Thank you. Joshua, anything for the group?
Good evening. It was a very good conversation. I think with regard to Mark Rossini and John Kiriakou, I greatly appreciate their whistleblowing. One thing that I maybe I have a different view of them, and I mentioned this at the during the Boston 9/11 call is I look at it from, maybe because I don't have any experience ever working in government. I look at 9/11, and to me, it would make sense that people in government, the intelligence community, the military contractors, that they would allow 9/11 to happen or make it happen. And but I do understand people who work in the intelligence community who know some of these potential suspects would say that they couldn't picture those people actually wanting these attacks to happen. So that's something I've been thinking about the past week or so.
Mm-hmm. And it's a great person to be thinking about it, because you're in tune there, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Joshua.
Thank you.
Carl, did I get you?
Well, actually, I put a 10-second video YouTube in chat. It's about fighting in the war room. I think it's appropriate to be shown.
Okay, I'll wrap with that. I think I got everybody. Sue, did I get you? Everybody's jumping around like Hollywood Squares here.
I have one quick one sentence to
Okay, go
say.
ahead. Quick.
Thanks. Sophia Smallstorm is prohibited from distributing her video 9/11 Mysteries. And because she had a picture of a United Airlines plane and she didn't have permission to use it, and the FBI came down on her very hard. So I'm wondering, as Richard is losing control of AE, are we going to be prohibited from distributing all those videos?
Who
And that's
prohibited
worth
her?
checking out.
Who prohibited Sophia Smallstorm?
They took her to court. It was a major, big fucking deal. The FBI investigated her, and it was a scam. But
Well, what was the charge? What was the charge?
I said that she had a picture of a United Airlines plane without permission from United Airlines.
Well, normally that would be United Airlines would take her to court. It's very strange.
No, Barbara, they want to stop her distributing it. They don't give a shit about the law.
Well, all she had to do was take that out of the video, right?
Well, she was prohibited. That's the last I heard, from distributing it or selling it.
Okay.
So Richard should definitely pin that down, because we may lose use of all those videos. Because the new people, whoever's running AE, will say, we don't want those distributed. And
all right, let's wrap this one up. Here's the video of no fighting in the war room.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
All right, everybody. Thank you.